Hi and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. Okay, this is Mailbag, common feature of the channel. It's where I attempt to answer questions that you guys have left on the channel, or if I can't answer them, I have a good go at answering them, or I throw them out to the wider tubing community to try and answer on behalf of somebody who's raised the question. Now, we'll get into this mailbag. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. I have to be honest and say this is kind of the last one of this section, but I've got to stop saying this is the last one, because when you guys see it, it may not be the last one. Because when I edit these things down, quite often the last one gets pushed to the front for various reasons. Anyway, this question comes from Stephen Rimmer. And it's about the Behringer Lindrum that is announced, a video I did in June 2021. And he writes, about your inflated prices, my missus bought me an Akai EWI USB for my birthday. It cost £250, but unfortunately came without a case. I did a search on eBay and Amazon and found some places selling cases for around the £100 mark. And I wanted stupid money for the postage from Japan. Oh my God. I wouldn't mind, but they're only soft cases, similar material to a soft guitar case you can buy for around £10 to £15. Now, I kind of have a policy that whenever I buy a synth, not necessarily when I buy a synth, when I restore a synth, then I tend to buy a hard case for it, because if I've restored a synth and I've made the conscious decision that I'm going to keep that synth, then I buy cases and stuff to protect it. And those cases typically will have somewhere for the cables and any peripherals that I need with that synthesizer to go in the case. And yes, cases can become silly money. It's a captive market. Where else do you go? The bottom line is somebody buys them, otherwise they wouldn't be selling them. But I have seen really good examples of this sort of stuff coming up on eBay. A seller posted a non-operational synth, right? And posted it at top money. So I, like I do quite often with these things, is I went back and said, but it doesn't work. And his response was, yes, but it's an XYZ. And I said, but it doesn't work. Yes, but it's a so-and-so. Well, why are you asking top money for it if it doesn't work? The reality is, if you're selling a synth for parts, you can't ask top money for it. In fact, really, if you're selling a synth for parts and it doesn't switch on, you can't really ask very much money for it at all. Yes, it might be the best collectible synth in the world, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that's kind of the point that a lot of these sellers miss. It might have the letters D50, DX7, M1, whatever it happens to be. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You can't ask the same money. And in fact, I'd actually challenge some of these idiots. I do apologise for using that word, because they are exploiting people because of the name. And guys, if you see something on eBay that says it doesn't work or it's sold for parts, unless you know what you're doing with it, don't buy it. Right? Somebody is trying to exploit you. If it doesn't work and it's been sold for parts, you should buy it. It should be at scrap money. It gets my dander up, to be honest, because I do, I know what I'm looking for when I go and buy these things. and I would never buy a non-working synth for working synth money. So that's just a word to the wise. You also, I've said this in the past on the channel about buying synths, in that, you need, when you buy a synth, you need a damper pedal, you may need a memory card, you may need something else, You would definitely, if you're going to move a synth around, you'll definitely need a case. And while I understand the lightness of a material case, it doesn't protect your synth. You need a proper case with proper sides that will protect your synth in transit. Anyway, kind of mini rant over on that one, but I think you get my drift. One of the things of sitting in the workshop is that you tend to get noises from outside that sometimes come onto the soundtrack of what I'm doing. And I am actually just about to change the way the sound is recorded as well. At the moment, there is a guy who lives across the road from me who has a very heavy left foot. So if all of a sudden you hear a roar of an exhaust going past the house, that's the reason. Anyway, I digress, because this is all about questions. And the next question comes from Sean Curran in response to graphite and rubber keyboard inside of the Times, a video I did in July 2021. And he writes, "Hey John, great discussion. Thanks, I have two things. First, an editorial comment. I don't think manufacturers thought about their keyboards lasting for 10, let alone 40 plus years. And I absolutely agree with you. I don't think they didn't think these things were going to last that long. If it felt like new boards are meant to replace, not augment the legacy gear. The second question, advice, is there a way to view the condition of graphite? Or do you simply wait until the key stops working before addressing this on an old board?" Good question. Yeah, I agree. These manufacturers never thought about people like me restoring keyboards and giving them life. And in response to your question, there is actually no way to inspect the graphite without stripping the keyboard down. So you probably wouldn't want to strip the keyboard down and actually do an inspection unless you had to strip the keyboard down to do the inspection. When you do this, you might well just clean the pads with some IPA. That tends to sort of like just clean the pads off, clean any dirt off them, because you'd be surprised how much dirt can actually get in and under the. There's like they tend to put some sort of rubber mounting over the top of it, which has the contacts in it. So the key makes contacts with the rubber makes contacts with the graphite, and therefore you get your tone. And also they tend to be slightly staggered, so that when you press the key down, one contact makes contact before the other contact, and then the keyboard can work out how hard you've pressed the key. But you'd be quite surprised how much dirt can get underneath that, especially if the keyboard has been working in a dirty environment. So it's been on the road and it's been gigged, or it's been working in a studio where people smoke. Now, if it's your personal studio, you can smoke to your heart's content, and nicotine is an utter bugger on circuit boards. But if you worked in a commercial studio up until probably about 10 years ago in the UK, in some other areas of the world it's completely different. But in the UK, it became illegal to smoke indoors in a public space, and a studio would be classed as a public space. But if these keyboards come from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, before that ban came in, you could smoke to your heart's content. And you used to see musicians and engineers sitting there with cigarettes hanging out of their mouths while they were working. It's quite possible that nicotine has infiltrated. So some IPA is great for just getting under the surface. Then you can just clean the graphite. If that doesn't work, you can actually buy graphite paint with a little paintbrush. You can repaint the tabs onto the board, which will give you your contact area back. So there are a couple of ways of getting around it, but the bottom line is you still have to strip the keyboard down to get to it.